Hi, everybody. It's Deborah from PeopleLovingAnimals.com. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching my video today. Today's video is called, Is Pet Insurance Worth It for Dogs? I have a website called PeopleLovingAnimals.com. We're on it right now. And today we're on this article on my website called, Is Pet Insurance Worth It for Dogs? Now, I'm not going to read you this article. I'm just going to use this article that's on my website kind of as the guide for today's video because there's so many points that I want to cover, so many things that are important that I want to share with you about pet insurance for dogs. So I'm going to use this article to kind of keep me on track so that I can share the information with you. Now, let me tell you a couple of things. We're going to cover in this video a few things. First, we're going to talk about, basically, I'm going to give you my recommendation based on my own personal experience, which is going to be quite shocking to you, by the way. I'm also going to give you my number one recommendation for pet insurance. I have shopped around. I have done the legwork. So I'm going to give you my number one recommendation for pet health insurance, but I'm also going to give you another option, like my second favorite as well. And they're both good. I'm also going to go over things to know before you buy pet health insurance, just things that you have to know if you've never had it before, if you've never shopped for it before. Excuse me for looking away. I'm referring to a list that I kept because I want to make sure I cover everything today. I'm also going to give you some points and some things to think about to actually help you decide if you need pet insurance for your dog or not. Also, at the end of the video, I'm going to be giving you a free gift. So I hope you'll stay with me and hang out till the end for that. Also, in the description box for this video, I'm going to give you a link for this article on my website, PeopleLovingAnimals.com. So, like I said, I'm not going to read you this article. So if you're seeing things in this article while we're doing the videos that you would like to click on or that you would be interested in reading, don't try to pause the video and read it. I'm going to give you the link to this article in the description box. So you're going to be able to go and read this article, click on all the links. There's a couple of videos in this article that you're going to be able to watch. So don't worry about that. I'm going to give you the link. Now listen, I made a note of this because I want to make sure that I don't forget to tell you. Now, we're going to be talking about pet health insurance, getting health insurance for your dog. But I also want to know, do you know about Care Credit? For years and years, I've owned animals 100 years, and I just found out about this in the last several years, and I wish I would have known about it sooner, but it's a credit card company called Care Credit. And you know what? I'm going to make a note right now because I want to give you the link to that. I'll give you the link to it. You apply for the credit card with Care Credit, and you can also use it it's for medical expenses. You can use it for your own medical expenses, like you can use it at your drugstore and stuff, but you can use it for vet bills. Now, there's a couple of advantages to it. First of all, it's a credit card, so that will, be accepted by your vet, which obviously any Visa or MasterCard is going to be accepted by your vet. But this could be a separate credit card that you keep just for your pet's expenses, just for your dog's expenses. But here's the thing. If you have a vet bill of $200 or more, Care Credit will finance that for you interest-free for up to 18 months. That's huge. If your dog ends up having $1,000 surgery that, all of a sudden, or if your dog gets hit by a car, or if anything happens that, even if they end up having a tooth pulled, that can cost you $400 or $500. Like if your dog has some sort of medical expense that you weren't planning on and you don't have the money for, not only do you have the credit card to pay for it, but like I say, if it's over $200, they give you 18 months to pay interest free. I don't know about you, but as a longtime pet owner, I can't tell you how many times that would have saved me if I would have known about it. So I have applied for them. I do use them. It is true. They do give you, if it's $200 or more, they do give you 18 months to pay interest free. So now I can tell you at the time that I first found out about it and I applied for it, my credit wasn't outstanding. So you don't need super good credit to get approved for it. And what they did was they started me with a $300 credit limit. And then within, it was less than 6 months, they raised me up to $3,500 credit limit. Okay, so don't be discouraged if you apply for the card and they only give you a $300 limit, because it's pretty quick. And what I would suggest, if you do get the card, by the way, I'm not an affiliate for them. I don't get paid to promote them. I'm just telling you about them because it's, to me, it's huge. If you had a vet bill, number one, you have a credit card for the dog. Number two, you get 18 months to pay interest free. It just helps a lot. Um, I'm sorry, I got distracted and then I lost my train of thought. But if you do apply for the credit card and they only give you like a $300 credit limit, then just use it a couple of times. Use it for the next vet visit, whether you can afford to pay with cash or not. Use the care credit card. Use it a couple of times. Make the minimum payment like once and then pay it off. Just use it a little bit. And before you know it, like I said, for me, it was less than 6 months. They had me up to $3,500 in credit. And then that gave me a lot of security, because with a credit card or not, like, I couldn't afford a $3,500 vet bill, but at least I knew I could do it if I had to, and that they would be manageable, and that I could make the minimum payments for up to 18 months. That's a year and a half that they would give you interest free, to pay that back. So I'm sorry to interrupt the video, but that's a really big piece of information, because if you're here trying to find out whether you should get pet health insurance, then obviously you have concerns about, paying for vet bills for your dog and how to get the money to pay for vet bills and so forth. So I hope that piece of information was valuable to you, and it's been valuable to me. Now, let's go ahead and get to the video. Now, in this article, I say, before we talk about whether pet insurance is worth it for dogs, let me introduce you to my $20,000 miniature dachshund named Tazzy. Here she is. This is her picture. She's the cutest little sweetheart. Now, unfortunately, I lost my little Tazzy in May of 2016. She was 14 years old. I had adopted her from a shelter 6.5 years earlier. And in the 6.5 years that I owned little Tazzy, I spent over $20,000 in medical bills for her. Now, some people would think I'm crazy. Some people wouldn't pay that for their dog. I'm not going to use this video to argue yay or nay. Everybody is different, and for those people who want to criticize that, you have no right to criticize what anybody else does. It's none of your business. Sorry. But I am the kind of person that, number one, if a dog needs medical care and I can provide it, even if it's going to put me in debt on my credit card, I'm going to provide it. Secondly, I am a strong believer in the fact that if you adopt an animal, you are responsible for them. And that includes their vet bills. Do you know what I mean? Like, what if when you were a kid, you had a high fever and your parents said, "Oh, we're not spending that kind of money. We're not." Do you know what I mean? Now, I know there's a difference between a child and a dog, but in my opinion, they are both living, breathing things. I think that when a person becomes a parent, they do it by choice. And so they are choosing to take on the responsibility for that child, and that includes the financial responsibility. And I believe the same is true with an animal. When you adopt a dog or a cat, you are doing it by choice, and you are responsible to provide what that animal needs. I just believe very strongly in that. And I also believe that if you can afford to provide the basic needs of an animal, then you shouldn't get one. And I would venture to risk pissing people off and say the same thing. If you can't afford to have kids, you shouldn't have those either. I'm sorry, but I really feel strongly about that. Now, obviously, if you say are a family and you have 3 little kids and you also have a dog, and the dog gets hit by a car, and to save its life, it's going to cost $5,000. Well, obviously, you have to think of the health of your family, and you have to think of the fact that you have small children that you're responsible for, and you can't take food out of their mouths to give surgery to the dog. Do you see what I mean? So it's not that I feel that you should ruin yourself financially or anything to pay your dog's vet bills. Obviously, you have to think things through and make the decisions, that are best, for you and for your family. But I also, I personally am just of the mindset that I think if you can pay for it, you should pay for it. And but I'm sorry, I'm getting derailed here, but I do know that when I say to people that I spent $20,000 in medical bills for my dog, a lot of people will criticize that. And I guess I'm just trying to defend myself on that, and that, if you I did have the money. Now it created, debts. I had to pay it back on my credit card, but I was able to pay it, and it was my choice. And honestly, if I had to do it again, I would do it again, because I believe in taking responsibility, and I would never in a million years let an animal suffer. Sure as hell wouldn't let an animal die if I had the means to provide the medical care to prevent that. That's just the way I see it. So anyway, that's what happened to me. Now, had I had pet health insurance for Tazzy, look at the money I would have saved. Okay, that's why I'm telling you this whole story. That's why I'm talking about this. This is what happened to me. If you especially are the kind of person like me where you will go into debt, you will use your credit card, you'll take a home equity on the house because you don't have the heart to let the dog suffer. If you're like that, like me, you need to get pet health insurance, because you know what? You're going to end up making, incurring costs that darn well you're not going to be able to say no to, because you're going to want to help the animal, and all these things. Do you see what I mean? Um, Now, when I got Tazzy, I'll tell you where this $20,000 came from. When I got Tazzy, she had a mouthful of severe infected and abscessed teeth. She had Dachshunds typically do have dental problems. They have bad teeth in general, so immediately there was $1,000 dental bill for her. She had to have surgery to have some of the abscess, the teeth removed, and it was $1,000. And then of course they got to have, it's surgery, so they have all the expenses of surgery. She had to have antibiotics, just the same as a person. That was within the first month. Over the next several years, she fell twice and hurt her back. One time she slipped on the ice and threw her back out. The poor little thing. Her pain was excruciating. And so I had to pay for an x-ray. I paid for muscle relaxers, and luckily she was able to recover from that. She had a total of 3 dental surgeries in the time that I had her. Tazzy also had severe seasonal allergies to the point where she literally could not breathe. She had to get steroid shots, and she also had to take bronchial dilators because her allergies were so bad that she literally could not breathe. And so that cost a lot of money for the vet bills and for the medications and so forth. At one point, she developed, and I'm giving you the link here, a severe head tilt. I'm not going to go into that in this article. It's a bizarre thing that unfortunately is fairly common. And I took her to the vet for that, and it was a very strange thing. It upsets me still, even to think about it. It was a bizarre illness. So when you click into this article with the link I'm going to give you in the description box, click on this head tilt. It's just a very strange thing. But one of her most costly medical expenses was the fact that she developed Cushing's disease. And also in the article, I'm giving you the link to read about this. It has to do with the adrenal gland and the production of cortisol. It is lethal if it's not treated. It is fatal if it's not treated. Now, the medication alone for the Cushing's disease was between $7,500 and $90 a month. Now, by the way, on my website, peoplelovinganimals.com, if you go to, I'm going to show you, follow me here. You can go to product reviews here and scroll through, or in the search box right here, I'm sorry to be so slow. In the search box right here on my website, see where my cursor is? You can type in vet approved RX. There's a company called Vet Approved RX. I shopped all over the planet for best prices for medications for Tazzy, and they were consistently, and they have been over the years. Anytime I ever have medication for an animal, I always shop around each and every time. I want to see who has it the cheapest. And Vet Approved RX comes in cheapest 99% of the time. They have excellent customer service. So, like I say, if you find them on my website by doing what I just told you, vetapprovedrx.com, uh, go in there. And as a matter of fact, why don't I make a note and I'll give you the link for them in the description box as well, because they saved me a lot of money on medications. But even with that, her Cushing's disease medication cost me between $75 and $90 per month. And she had that Cushing's disease, I want to say almost 5 years. So do that math. That's what it cost me. Not to mention the fact that the blood tests that they have to do, and they're required by law in order to give the Cushing's medication, the Cushing's disease medication, they have to do a blood test, which the cheapest vet that I found to do it was $300. It can go up to $500. And they had to do it like every 3 to 6 months. And the vet is not legally allowed to write another prescription without that. So it is mandatory and very expensive. So you can imagine, do the math on that. A dog with Cushing's disease over even a 3 to 5 year period, it was a lot of money. It cost me a lot of money. Now, had I had pet insurance at the onset of that, her diagnostics, her medicine, all those $300 blood tests would have been covered. It just would have saved me. With Tazzy, pet health insurance would have saved me thousands. There's just no disputing it. It would have saved me thousands of dollars. Now, sadly, in the end, Tazzy ended up passing away. I'm going to try not to get choked up while I tell you of a fatal onset of congestive heart failure. And that's how I lost my little girl. Now, I can also tell you, I had another dog directly after Tazzy named Cagney. He's a Boston Terrier. You'll see his picture around my website if you check out my website. Cagney also passed away from congestive heart failure. Now, let me tell you, congestive heart failure is extremely common in elderly dogs, just like it's extremely common in old men. Do you know what I mean? All those old men, they're on a diabetic, they're coughing all the time. It's congestive heart failure. It's very common. When people say, oh, he died of natural causes, yeah, well, that's one of them, congestive heart failure. And what happens is your heart cannot pump out the fluids in your body. So, you see old people walking around, and especially like ladies, they have summer sandals on and their feet look like sausages. They're all swollen. When the old people, their feet are swollen, their ankles are swollen, their knees are swollen. That's a symptom of they're probably going through congestive heart failure, where their heart will not pump out the fluid anymore. And it's fluid that is accumulating around their joints and around their heart, which is the most dangerous thing. Uh, when the fluid settles around their heart. So, for example, a dog who has congestive heart failure, number one, has to have medication for the congestive heart failure. Number two, they have to be given medication in the form of a diuretic, like Lasix, for example, is one of them, to help them get rid of the water. Number three, it's usually partnered with high blood pressure. So they usually have a high blood pressure medication. And then also, like, for example, a dog with congestive heart failure is going to be on a diuretic. Well, when I had Cagney, during the last couple of years of his life, that dog could only hold his bladder for 4 hours. That's it. I couldn't get past 4 hours. In the last couple of years, anytime I went away, I had to be home within 4 hours, because Cagney literally couldn't hold his bladder. I ended up overnight putting an area for him to go to the bathroom with towels and stuff, because I didn't want to get up in the middle of the night to let the dog out. So, it's a troublesome disease, and that the dog literally can't hold their bladder because they're taking a diuretic. Also, like, for example, because they take the diuretic, that it takes away potassium in their body. You also have to monitor salt intake. Sometimes an elderly person, you'll see they eat a banana every day. Well, they eat a banana every day because they need to replace the potassium because they're on the LASIK for the congestive heart failure. So I don't want to depress you. I certainly don't want to scare you, but I've got a lot of experience, and I've had animals, not only dogs, but cats as well, with very expensive medical issues. And here's something I'm going to throw in. And again, I'm getting a little emotional talking about this. I'm a profound animal lover. Obviously, this is what I do for a living. I have this website, peoplelovinganimals.com. I love animals profoundly. So, for a person like me, not that it's worse for me than anybody else, but for a person like me, when my dog or cat is sick, I'm beside myself. I'm devastated, and to watch them actually suffer with a fatal illness like congestive heart failure or Cushing's disease, and to do everything you can to help them, and they deteriorate right before your eyes in spite of it. When you lose the animal, when you bury the dog, do you know what I mean? It's all hard enough when your beloved pet is ill, or if your dog is hit by a car, or if something traumatic happens. It's all hard enough to go through without worrying about the financial stuff on top of it. Do you know what I mean? So for that reason, I wish I would have had pet insurance for Tazzy. Now, by the time I got Cagney, I did know about pet insurance, but I didn't get it for him because he was coming to the end of his life, and he had already been diagnosed with the Cushing's, or with the congestive heart failure. So chances are the insurance company wouldn't have covered it. It was a pre-existing illness. But if I had pet insurance for Cagney, before the onset of that, it would have saved me quite a bit of money on his medications and his testing. And when they have congestive heart failure, they need to have an X-ray, they need to have a sonogram, they need, all this expensive stuff. It's a lot. Um, but I just wanted to, just touch on that because, part of the reason that I do encourage people to get pet insurance is because of all the money stuff. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more, to actually decide, depending on your own personal financial situation, you say, oh, well, I could afford to pay a vet bill. Okay, we're going to talk about that a little bit more because I'm going to help you actually decide if you should have pet insurance or not. But um, it's not just the financial stuff. It's also the fact that, you need to have this covered, so that you don't have the added stress of the financial stuff. I put in my article here, insert sobbing. Oh, I loved that little wiener dog so much. And my Boston Cagney. I just love him so much. And you do too, obviously, or you wouldn't be here on this video. Okay, now let's go on before I get all sapped up here. Um, Now, like I said, I am a person, I would have gone into debt all over again for another dog. I personally just feel the responsibility to pay vet bills and so forth. But I do wish that I had had pet insurance. I'm going to give you a lot of information in this article. This one, by the way, Healthy Paws, this is the one that I most recommend. When you go into this article, you can click on them. When we get further, you're going to see there's more information. I'm also going to give you the link to them. Uh, Now, I also had cats as well that had some medical expenses. And like I say, at the time I got those cats, I didn't know about health insurance. I didn't even know it existed for, most of my life. It didn't exist for many, many years. Pet insurance just didn't exist. But then once it did, it was a long time before I knew about it. But I also had, for example, I had a cat who developed a bladder crystal, and she had to have surgery for that. And it cost me, the surgery itself was $700. And then like the vet bills and stuff, altogether it was probably $1,000. She had a bladder crystal. She had to have removed. It's kind of the same as if we had a kidney stone, that sort of thing. I also had a little cat named Abigail, who sadly I lost when she was only 9 years old to fatty liver disease. And I'm going to talk with you a little bit about that in a later part of this article. But her death cost me $2,900. It was almost $3,000 for me trying to save her, the vet trying to save her, and the things they were able to do for her. And 2 different times she spent 2-3 days in the hospital and everything. And, not to sound cold, but $2,900 later, I didn't have the cat. The cat died. Do you know what I mean? Again, if I had had pet insurance for her, I'm just trying to give you, like I said, I'm not trying to scare you or anything. And here's the other thing too, is you can have a pet for 20 years. They never have a single sniffle. Do you know what I mean? And that happened to me. I had a wiener dog once. I had her before Tazzy, another wiener dog. I had her for the longest time. The dog never had any health problems. I had cats for years and years. I had a tomcat named Myron. He was 14 when he died. Now, at the end, he ended up eating, what do you call, ant poison to get rid of ants. And he died of kidney disease at 14. But prior to that, in his 14 years, that cat never had a health problem. Now, granted, I had taken him for his shots. I took him to be neutered, regular expenses like that, which, by the way, some health insurance will cover. Save you money right there. But, I had that cat for 14 years, never had a problem. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, I don't need pet health insurance. Well, with that particular animal, I didn't. But look what happened to me with the other animals, So, like I say, there's pros and cons. You can make a case for not having it. We're going to talk about that a little bit. So, like I say, I personally prefer Healthy Paws. In the article, I'm going to give you this link here to go ahead and get a free quote from them. They'll ask like your dog's breed and their age and stuff, and they'll give you a quote. They'll also give you information about what the policy covers. You can make decisions. We're going to talk about that a little bit here. You can also read my complete review of them. I'll give you the link for that here. And you can get information and a free quote. So I'm giving you a couple different links here that once you get in this article, you'll be able to check it out. Now, the other thing, too, is pet insurance is getting more popular. Years ago, as a matter of fact, just over 10 years ago, there was only one pet insurance company that was well known in the United States. Now, at the time I wrote this article, there was more than 14 companies who offer pet insurance, but I'm sure even now there's probably more than 14. So people are just starting to realize that there is such a thing as pet insurance. And luckily for us, pet owners, it's getting more competitive. And more competitive means less prices. They're having to compete for our business now. And, that's always a good thing because that means they've got to give us good prices. That means they have to give us good service. So I talk a little bit about here. I'm not going to bore you with me trying to read for you this article. Now, is pet health insurance right for you and your dog? You have to see pet insurance as a risk management tool. It's a way to minimize your risk of financial loss. It's kind of devastating in my case. Should your pet become ill or have an accident or get hit by a car or something like that. The purpose of health insurance is to make sure you can provide proper care for your vet or for your pet if anything unexpected happens. And it also gives you the security of knowing that if anything happens to your animal, if they're injured, if they're hit by a car, if they have some sort of accident, if they have some sort of illness, you and your vet together can make the right decisions for that animal. And it's not going to have to do with finances. Do you know what I mean? Wouldn't you rather be able to talk with your vet and say, what's the best thing to do? Should the dog have the surgery or shouldn't he? If the dog's been hit by a car, what if we do surgery? What are his chances of survival? Maybe we shouldn't do the surgery. Do you know what I mean? Like all those sorts of decisions. Wouldn't it be nice if you have pet health insurance? If you have insurance on your dog for health, then you can make those decisions with your vet based on what's the best thing. And it doesn't have to be based on financial stuff. My vet used a phrase called economic euthanasia. And that was his way of describing this is when I have to put an animal down because their owner simply cannot afford. the life-saving medical treatment. Either they can't afford the medication, they can't afford the test, they can't afford the surgery. And my vet, who by that time, he retired shortly after he and I had this conversation. He'd been practicing 30, 40 years. And you can imagine his heartbreak and all the times he was forced to put an animal down. Economic euthanasia. Isn't that just a sad phrase, that somebody would have to put their dog down or their cat because they just cannot afford the life-saving medical treatment. And imagine their regret if they had only had pet insurance. And again, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to be dramatic. I'm just saying, you know, uh, one of these things I wish I had known. Do you know what I mean? Now, I was very fortunate in that all of my animals, I never had to put an animal down because I couldn't pay their vet bills. Fortunately for me, I did have the means, even though a lot of the times it was on my credit card, which I then had to pay monthly and took me forever to pay for. But fortunately for me, I was able to cover, these things. But it really comes down to a financial decision. Now listen to this. And again, like I said, I'm going to talk with you about, do you even need pet insurance? If your dog, say, required emergency surgery, hospitalization, if they had an accident, and the estimated cost was going to be $5,000, could you pay for it? If you're like, yeah, I could pay for it. I either have that in savings all the time, I could pay for it. Or I do have credit cards, I could pay for it, and it might be tough, but I could I could manage the monthly payments and get that paid for. Maybe you could put it on your Care credit card and have it financed over 18 months and you could pay for it. So if your answer is yes, yeah. If I had a $5,000 medical expense for my dog, yeah, I could pay for it. If that's the case, then maybe you don't need pet insurance. Now, granted, if you had pet insurance, it's going to cover most of that $5,000 and you wouldn't have to pay it. But, it's just like car insurance. It's just like any insurance. It's just like health insurance for people. When you think about, say, for me, the number of years that I have paid premiums, month after month after month for I'm not going to give away my age, but more than 35 years, I've been paying for health insurance for myself. All those premiums, I've never really had a serious illness. Do you know what I mean? Fortunately for me. So, it's kind of like all these years. Yeah, I could have paid for my mammograms. I could have paid for that. I could have paid for my pap smears. I could have paid for my annual blood work. I could pay the money to my doctor. I could have covered my medical costs all these years for a lot less money total than the total I have paid in premiums over all these years. But the problem with that is, what if I did have a serious illness? What if I went to the grocery store today, fell and broke my leg? What if I developed cancer? And I can tell you, I've had, sadly, a lot of experience. Both my parents are deceased from cancer. My sister had a double mastectomy. Uh, I can't even tell you. And, unfortunately, it's so common that you probably also have experience with, as devastating as cancer is, what it costs, you know, the medical bills, the blood work, the testing, the surgery, all of it. So obviously, as people, we have to have health insurance because if anything like that happened, we would be financially wiped out. We would be financially devastated. We would be filing bankruptcy. And I hate to say it, but the level of care that you get as a human being, at least in these United States, is affected by whether or not you have health insurance. If you have health insurance, you're going to get better care than if you don't have health insurance. So I'm comparing this because it's like when you're deciding whether or not to get pet insurance for your dog, it's the same concept. Oh, I can pay for my dog's vet bills. And, even if they had a couple $1,000s, in expenses, I would end up paying less by just paying for those things out of pocket than paying premiums every month for all the years I have my pet. Do you know what I mean? But it's the same concept. It's like, that's what you have to actually think through. And nobody can make that decision for you except you, because it all boils down to the fact that it is a financial decision. Do you have the financial means to cover your dog's medical expenses? And I'm talking, and I mean it, Cushing's disease, congestive heart failure, these sorts of things, especially when your dog gets older, they become very expensive. So you need to think it through. And also, pet insurance is cheaper the younger the animal is. You know what I mean? So don't wait till they're old and then say, oh, I better get pet health insurance. First of all, you better hope they aren't already diagnosed with something. Because just like with people, if they're already diagnosed, it's considered a pre-existing illness. And, your new insurance company is not going to be responsible for it. So you can't take the chance of waiting until, well, if they do get sick, I'll get pet insurance. That can backfire on you, because the insurance company, I was going to say may not, they likely will not cover it if it's already diagnosed, if it's a pre-existing illness. So it is cheaper to go ahead and get a policy when your dog is a puppy or when your cat is a kitten, because that's when you're going to get the cheapest quote. That's when you're going to get the cheapest monthly premium. And you're just going to pay far less over the long run if you get it when they're younger. So let's continue on here. And like I say, it's not just accidents that can happen to your pet. Dogs and cats, they get the same illnesses that humans do. Everything from cancer to pneumonia to bronchitis to heart disease to diabetes, dental issues. Diabetes, unfortunately, is a fairly common interest in dogs. I happen to know a poodle who lives nearby. He's a little black poodle, and he has diabetes. And his mom has to give him insulin shots and everything. And now, imagine what the vet bills are for that. She's got to take him in periodically. He has to have blood work periodically. He's probably on medication. She has to pay for the insulin. It all adds up. And, a dog can be diagnosed with diabetes at 2 years old. You might have that dog 15 years. Do you know what I mean? So it's just, and unfortunately, the treatment for dogs is just as expensive, if not more so, than it is for people. And I talk a little bit about here is, dog owners who have pet insurance are always relieved that they have it if something happens. If something scary has happened to your dog, you're going to be under enough stress as it is. If your dog is sick, you're going to be under enough stress as it is. You don't want to make it worse by the fact that it's also a financial problem. And you don't want to be feeling guilty because your dog died, because you were not able to pay the vet bill. If you could have if the dog could have been saved, and the only reason that the dog isn't still alive is because you couldn't pay for the vet bill. Do you know what I mean? If you can prevent that, just the emotional turmoil that you would feel, just prevent that for yourself. Now, here's another important point. Having insurance will prevent you from hesitating to take them to the vet. I have had animals for years and years, and if you've had animals for any length of time, you're going to know what I'm talking about here. You know how it is when you're like, there's something wrong with the dog. They're not breathing right, or, hey, they threw up a couple times, or they have diarrhea, or the dog's just not acting right. Maybe they're coughing. You know how it is when your pet, it's just something wrong with the dog, and it's like, do I take it to the vet? Well, obviously you can't rush the dog to the vet every time something is, because a vast majority of the time it's going to be nothing. Just like with us, I might cough all afternoon today. Doesn't mean I need to rush over to the emergency room. Who knows why I'm coughing? Now, if tomorrow night comes and I'm still coughing, then yeah, I probably need to take some sort of action, make a doctor's appointment, whatever. And the same is true for your animal. Obviously, you can't rush them to the vet every time they sneeze or anything, but it's hard to know at what point do you take them to the vet, and it's a serious issue. And again, I don't want to scare you, but the cat that I talked about, Abigail, who died of fatty liver disease, that cat had been throwing up. And had I known what I know now, it's possible she may not have died if I would have taken her to the vet sooner. Um, I don't know that for sure. And sans a time machine, there's nothing I can do about it. So I can't like dwell on that, and feel guilty and sad about it. I know that I do the best I can with my animals, and um, but like for example, the vet shared with me that animals will they're kind of like a toddler, a little like a 2-year-old boy, for example, are the same as animals in that they will play all day long with 104 fever. Little ones, kids, and pets, they won't go down until they go down. They won't go down until they collapse. Do you see what I mean? So a dog or a cat, by the time they're showing symptoms, like they're starting to throw up, for example, usually by the time the animal is actually showing symptoms, they've already been sick for some time because they're like that little toddler with the fever. He'll run around all afternoon with 104 temperature. And until the kid faints or collapses, you don't even know he had the fever. Do you know what I mean? And so he's obviously been sick a day or two at least. If his fever's up to 104, do you understand what I mean? That's the way the vet explained it to me, is that, when my cat was throwing up, once they become symptomatic and things actually start happening, um, my advice would be, if you're not sure, take them to the vet, because you'd rather err on the side of caution. But back to the article, when those things happen, you're like, well, do I take the dog to the vet or don't I? For me, all those years, part of the decision was financial. Oh, well, I hope you're okay because I can't afford to take you to the vet this week. Do you see what I mean? It's like a lot of times I might have taken the cat to the vet, or I may have taken the dog to the vet sooner if I had had pet insurance, because the cost wouldn't have been a factor for me. Do you see what I mean? So having pet health insurance, in my mind, is a benefit in that way, because the cost is not preventing you from taking them to the vet maybe sooner. And like I said, in the case of my cat, Abigail, it might have saved her had I taken her sooner. I don't know. Um, Now, what are the different types of policies? These are the things when you're shopping for pet insurance, and I'm going to give you a couple that, like, I've already done a lot of this legwork for you, but even though I've done the legwork and I can give you these two companies that I recommend, you do have to decide within that what kind of policy you want. And you have to decide what kind of policy you want and what kind of policy you can afford and how much are the premiums for this or that. Do you understand what I mean? So just to give you a little bit of knowledge going in, some policies will only pay for illness or accidents or injuries. Other policies will pay for preventative care, such as neutering, spaying, vaccinations, and they'll pay for illnesses and accidents. So, you need to find out what they'll cover. And it may be cheaper, and it might be the policy that you choose. It's like, okay, I don't need my policy to cover annual vaccinations and, for my dog to be spayed or neutered. But, if an accident happens, I need to be covered. Well, that's the kind of policy that you need to get then. Do you see what I mean? So you realize that there are different sorts of policies. The policy you choose will determine the premium amount. Some companies offer reimbursements of 70%, 80%, some 90%. It's kind of like your car insurance with deductibles. It kind of works the same way as our insurance. Is if you have insurance with a high deductible where you have to pay a big part out of pocket, then your premiums are going to be cheaper. And it's the same with pet insurance. A lot of times, if you have a higher deductible or you want a policy that's going to reimburse you 70% of the vet bill, that policy is going to be cheaper than a policy that pays you back 90% of the vet bill. Do you see what I mean? So think of it as the same as car insurance. The higher your deductible, in other words, the higher the risk you're willing to take for what you would have to put out should something happen, that determines the amount of your premium. So just know that going in. These are some of the things that you'll need to talk about, or talk about with the agent, with the company, or think about. Some of them have max payouts. Some companies will put a cap on the total amount they'll pay either by year or for a particular pet or for a particular accident. Like say, your dog gets hit by a car, they'll pay up to $3,000 for that incident. Things like that. So, again, just make sure you're educated so that you know which policy you're choosing and what that policy will actually cover. Most pet insurance companies require you to pay the vet bill and then they reimburse you. Filing a claim is usually fast and easy, and you can usually file your claim online. Now, that's another reason I do encourage you to get the Care Credit Card. Because if you have a pet health insurance company that's going to require you to pay the vet bill and then they'll reimburse you, then you can use your Care Credit Card to pay the vet bill, submit the receipt to the insurance company, and then they reimburse you and you pay that back to your Care Credit Card. I'm sorry, I'm getting a text. Um, so just know that ahead of time. Know that ahead of time as you're shopping around for policies. Things to consider when buying pet health insurance. Don't wait, buy early. Like I said, first of all, you need to buy the pet insurance before they have the medical issue. So you don't want it to be discounted as a pre-existing illness. And also, the younger your pet is when you get the policy, the cheaper your premiums are going to be. Also, like we've talked about, understand how the policy works. Pet insurance companies are different, policies are different. Find out, how you file a claim, all those sorts of things. Know what you're getting. It's important to know what to expect. Like, what is your deductible? Do you have a cap on your deductible for the year? Will they cover routine care such as heartworm medication, flea and tick medication, spaying, neutering, vaccinations. I see in the article here, it would definitely be worth a call and have a conversation with one of the representatives. What I would suggest to you, if this is your first time checking into this, is when we get a little further here, I'm going to give you, you're going to see that you're going to be able to get a lot of information about these two particular companies that I'm recommending to you. I would recommend that you go to these links that I'm going to give you and watch the videos I'm going to give you. Go to the websites, get your quote, and just, get around on those websites a little bit, educate your little bit self a little bit. Okay, what do I got to choose here? Like, what's the different things I can do? Just get yourself to understand things a little bit better, and then dial the 800 number and talk to somebody. Get out a piece of paper, write down some of your questions, and then it's worth a phone call to just call the company, speak with a representative so that you can talk to a real person, so that you can find out exactly what is the best decision, and they'll also help you make the right decision for you. Are you a person who financially needs everything to be covered, or are you a person that you can pretty much pay your dog's vet bills, you can pretty much pay for stuff, but you just want to be covered in case they have a serious illness or an accident? Do you know what I mean? You can actually talk to the representative and they'll help you decide what is the best policy for you. Now, here's an important point. Don't think of pet insurance as an investment. Um, when you buy a house or car insurance, you may go for years without ever having to file a large claim. Yet you get the insurance and you pay the premium anyway, because if anything big like a house fire or a car accident ever does happen, you have to be covered so that you're not financially devastated by it. It's the same for pet insurance. It's not something that you should look to be profiting on or even to break even on. Um, at the end of a calendar year, for example, you add up how much you paid in premiums and subtracted what your insurance company covered. Did you come out ahead? Probably not. But that's the way insurance works. The bottom line is, when it comes to insurance, whether it's pet health insurance, whether it's your own health insurance, whether it's house insurance, whether it's car insurance, the only way that you get your money's worth is if something bad happens. You own a house for 30 years, you pay the premiums for months and months and months, years and years and years, and never have a house fire. You never have an accident. Do you know what I mean? Did you profit on that? No. You can't think of it as an investment. It's a way to prevent financial devastation. If your house burns down, if your tub falls through the ceiling, do you know what I mean? Those kinds of things. If you have a car accident, your car's totaled, or just $3,000 worth of repairs. If you have cancer, if you break your leg, that's the reason we need insurance. Do you know what I mean? So you can't sit down with your calculator and say, oh, if I look at my dog expenses over 5 years, this is what it added up to. And if I would have had pet insurance, this is what my premiums would have added up to. But then you do have to subtract what the insurance would have covered had you had the policy. And then the bottom line might end up being where you would have spent less if you had just paid the vet bills instead of having the policy. But did your dog get cancer this year? Did your dog get hit by a car this year? Did your dog develop Cushing's disease this year? Do you see what I mean? It's when those things happen that you're glad you have the insurance, and that's when you need the insurance. So that's just the way it works with any insurance. Like, with car insurance. Now, I live in New York State. New York State requires us to have a certain amount of liability. We don't have to have collision insurance unless the car is financed. If the car is financed, then the bank's going to require you to have collision insurance. But for example, if you pay cash for your car, or if you pay your car off, in New York State at least, you can cancel the collision insurance. You don't have to have it. Well, you would consider that the same way you would consider this issue with pet insurance. Can I afford to pay if my car gets damaged? If I can, probably better off not paying premiums for, I'm sorry, my computer's bugging me here. You're probably better off not paying, the collision insurance premiums. But if you're a person who can't afford, if anything should happen to the car repairs, then you need to get the collision insurance. you know so that's the way it works. So don't get out a calculator and say, well, I'll be better off if I do this or that. The bottom line with deciding whether or not to get pet insurance for your dog is, can you or can you not cover your dog's vet bills if anything big happens? And just to you know just to take them for their annual rabies shot, for their annual vaccinations, if they need to go and get their nails clipped, if they need all these things, just regular vet appointments. If you have your health insurance and if you know what it covers, you pay the premium. And one of these companies, Petplan, is one that I'm going to give to you here. Their policies start, I should have said this in the beginning of the video, their policies start at $10 a month. So I'm sorry. I'm really sorry about that. I should have given you a clue right in the beginning of this video. Pet insurance is not that expensive. It's really not, especially if you have a young animal. Now, here's my recommendations. Like I've talked about, Healthy Paws is the one. Like I said, I've done the legwork. I've done the comparing. One of the reasons that I recommend them is that they've gotten fantastic reviews. There's a couple of links here: petinsurancereview.com, consumersadvocate.org, petinsurancquote.com. They've gotten really good reviews on these sites. That was one of the things that sold me on it. Also, they got awards for all these years in a row. I haven't checked into them recently. They may still be getting those awards for customer service. And I don't know about you, but if I don't get customer service, I get pissed with anything. I don't care if it's my insurance company or my internet provider. If I'm a customer and I'm paying the bill every month, I expect to be treated decently. I expect to have my questions answered. If I have a problem, I expect for it to be addressed. I expect somebody to be decent to me on the phone. Do you see what I mean? So customer service is just a big pet peeve of mine, and that if I'm going to be somebody's customer and I'm going to be paying premiums to them every month, I want decent customer service. And Healthy Paws has won awards for that. Okay, so that's one of the things that sold me on them. When you click into this article, you're going to be able to see this video, which is actually pretty cool. It's the owner and founder of Healthy Paws Insurance, and it's a cool video. You should watch it. Like I say, there's a link in here to go ahead and click in and get a free quote through them. The second one I recommend is Petplan. These are the ones that start at $10 a month. Again, I've written a full review of Petplan here, and you can check it out. And also, there's a video here. Look at how cute this is. This is so cute. Um, you can watch their video and find out a little bit more about them. And then for them as well, you can click in here. You can get a free quote to see how much it would cost for your dog. I make a comment here. We need to catch up in the USA. Like I've said, we've only just gotten pet health insurance in the United States over the last 10 years. Before that, it was unheard of. And then even when it did start, I was a pet owner. I didn't know about it. But now, we need to find out. But I'm saying here, I was surprised to find out that more than half of all pets in the UK have pet insurance. So pet insurance is a common thing in other countries, but in the U.S. we've been a little slower on it. But like I say, luckily now we do have many companies that provide pet insurance, so that gives us the ability to shop around. Now let me just end with a couple of things. First, let me just disclose this. I donate to animal charities. Now I am a full-time what's called an affiliate marketer. My website, for example, peoplelovinganimals.com, I write articles like this one we've reviewed here. I do product reviews on my YouTube channel. I do videos all about the care of dogs and cats, everything from healthcare to product reviews to cat training, dog training, all kinds of issues regarding dogs and cats. Now, I search for and shop for products and services that are helpful to dog owners and cat owners. For example, I shopped around for dog training. Where's the best place to get dog training? And I have a couple of dog training websites that I recommend to people. And what I did is I became an affiliate for that dog training website, and now I promote them. So if people do purchase dog training programs from that site, I get paid for it as an affiliate. I get a commission. So that's what I do is I shop around, and like, for example, with the pet insurance, if you end up getting a pet insurance policy because of from my video, from my articles, from the links that I'm giving you, I will get commission on it. So like I said, what I do for peoplelovinganimals.com is I research all this stuff. I research, like, for example, that pet medications place that I told you about, Vet Approved RX. You'll see on my website, I did a full review on them. Now, there's somebody that I personally have used for years and years. I personally have experience with their customer service and so forth. I have done the legwork. I've shopped around. That's the one that I recommend to the people who visit my website and the subscribers to my email list and the subscribers to my YouTube channel. So I do the legwork, I shop around, and then I give you what I find to be the best products and services for the best price. And then I do get a commission for recommending those products and services. So way back down here in the article, I actually donate 10% of all of those commissions that I earn on my website to animal charities. Now, if you go to the homepage of my website, I give you a link here, and then also if you just go to peoplelovinganimals.com, on the homepage, you'll see a list of the pet charities, the animal charities that I donate to. So anytime anyone makes a purchase of any product or service that I'm recommending here on this website or on my YouTube channel, if they go in the links that I give them, I get a commission, and then I give 10% of those commissions to animal charities each month. That was something I want to tell you. Now, a couple more things. In the beginning of the video, I told you if you stuck through to the end, and by the way, thank you so much for sticking with me. I appreciate it. I would give you a free gift. Well, your free gift is a free dog training manual. It's written by Doggy Dan, he is the owner and founder of a dog training website called theonlinedogtrainer.com. If you go to my website and you click under the dog training category here, you're going to see a whole lot of articles and things referring you to Doggy Dan. Let me just plug in my computer so we don't get unplugged here, so we don't get cut off. So Doggy Dan gave us a dog training manual, and it's actually pretty cool. It's like an ebook. It's like a PDF. To give to our customers. And so I'm going to give it to you as a free gift for coming and watching this video. So when you go in the description box of this video, you'll see grab your free gift. So click on that, sign up for it with your email, and I will immediately email you that free dog training manual. Now, when you do that, you're giving me your email, and that's also signing you up for my dog lovers email subscriber list. When you are on that list, about every 5 to 7 days, you get an email from me, and it either contains an article, something like this that I've written for my website, all about dogs, or it'll contain a video that I've made for my YouTube channel all about dogs. About every 5 to 7 days, you get a new article or a new video from me, and you click into the ones you're interested in, you delete the ones you're not interested in. You can unsubscribe from that email list at any time, but I think that you'll find it to be a valuable resource. I do a lot of stuff that really educates people and really helps a lot. So I'd love to have you subscribe. I would love to have you on board. A couple more things. In the description box, you're going to find the link to this article that we've been using here on my website. I'm going to give you a link to go directly to Healthy Paws Pet Insurance. I'm going to give you a link to go directly to the Petplan Pet Insurance, so you can check both of those out and get a free quote. Like we talked about, I'm going to give you the link to get the Care credit card. Now, that one I don't get any commission on. I just tell people about that because I just think it's very helpful. I'm also going to give you a link to vetapproved.rx.com. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you the link to my review of them. And then within that review, you'll be able to click to go to their website itself, because I would like you to see my review, because they really are outstanding. And when you read my review of vetapprovedrx.com, you're going to be pretty surprised. Their customer service, I give a couple of examples. Those people have gone above and beyond for me, many times. So I'll give you the link to my review so you can kind of read why I'm recommending them. And also I'll give you the link to go there. So that's what's going to be in the description box. Also, on this YouTube channel, you'll see there's lots of videos. I do a minimum of one video per week. Sometimes I do up to 2 or 3 videos a week, all about dogs and cats. You'll see there's both on there. So I'd love it if you would shop around, look around my YouTube channel, watch a couple more videos. Also, I would ask if you would please refer my YouTube channel and also my website, peoplelovinganimals.com, to other dog lovers or cat lovers that you would like to share this with and you think would benefit. Again, it does benefit animal charities. I do give 10% of the commissions I earn to animal charities, so your sharing would be greatly appreciated by me. Also, in the description box for this video, you'll see that you can support my YouTube channel via Patreon. If you haven't heard of that before, it's where you can go and you can donate either a one-time payment or a monthly payment. I mean, it can be as little as $1 a month. It could be $5 a month. It could be whatever you want. But it's to support somebody's YouTube channel, to support their efforts, basically so that we can continue to do what we do for a living. Obviously we have bills to pay like everybody else. And it's through the Patreon support and the commissions that I get that I'm able to do this peoplelovinganimals.com website for a living. So I would appreciate you supporting me on Patreon if you're able. Also, let's see, a couple more things. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please give it a like. That really helps YouTubers. You should always do that if you like a video, because YouTube is always watching us and they want to know, do people like my video or don't they? And if they get a lot of likes, they'll know that people like this video, and so they'll show it to more people. Okay, so it helps the YouTuber. But if you think a video gave you valuable information, the best way to make sure that other people get that same valuable information is to click on that thumbs up and give it a like. Okay, because that's going to help YouTube to show it to more people. Also, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel if you'd like to. And again, when you subscribe to a YouTube channel, you can unsubscribe at any time. But I would love it if you would subscribe. You can do the notification bell if you want, and that'll give you a notification every time I do a new video. And, I'm doing lots of videos. Also, feel free to comment below in the comments for this video. If there's more information you wish I would have given, or if there's a video that you would like me to do, or are you having some kind of an issue with your dog that you need help on, and would you like me to give more information? Because I take recommendations from people all the time. If you need, information, then if I think enough people would also need that information, I'll go ahead and I'll do an article or a video or both. Okay, so feel free to give me your input and give me your ideas. So I guess that's about it. So again, my name is Deborah. My website is peoplelovinganimals.com. I so appreciate your coming and watching my video. And I have to say, pet insurance, is it worth it for dogs? Yep. I really think it's worth it. I really do. I personally could have saved myself a lot of grief. I could have saved myself a lot of stress. I could have saved myself a ton of money if I had had pet insurance for all my animals all the years that I've had animals. I do recommend it. I do think it's worth it. In my opinion, not to simplify too much, because you do have to think it through like we've talked about, but in my opinion, the only reason I would tell somebody, no, you don't need pet insurance, is if you're quite wealthy. If you can easily pay that vet bill every time you take the dog to the vet, you can easily take them in for their shots every year to get their rabies shot. You can easily take them to the vet to get their nails clipped. If your cat has a urinary tract infection, you can afford the antibiotics, you can afford the urine test. And also, could you afford it if your dog got a serious/expensive illness, such as Cushing's disease or diabetes or congestive heart failure? These are all very, very common. They're not a weird thing, okay? Could you afford to pay the vet bills if your dog got hit by a car, if your dog got into an accident, if your dog broke its leg, could you easily pay for pretty much whatever your dog would need at the vet? Only under those circumstances would I say, it's okay for you not to have pet insurance. Save the premium and just, hope that nothing happens, but know that you can pay if it does. That's really the only case that I can make against pet insurance. And in my mind, that's the only circumstances where it would make sense for you not to have it. I think for the rest of us, I recommend it. I think it's the right thing to do, and it'll give you great peace of mind. If you're on here and if you have a dog, obviously you love your dog. And, it makes us feel good to do things, to take care of our dog. We love them and they give us so much love and joy. And, everything I've been through with my animals through the years, the grief of when they pass away, the potty training, the peeing on the rug, like all the things that you go through as a pet owner, some of them quite devastating. I'll just keep doing it again and again because animals are so worth it. They're just so worth it. So I encourage you to go ahead and do this and take my recommendations. And, there are other pet insurance companies. If you want to shop around more and you end up going with a different company than I recommended, that's fine. I'm still very happy to have given you the information and the help you need to make the best decision for you. So again, thank you so much for watching my video. I really appreciate your time. Again, my name is Deborah. My website is peoplelovinganimals.com. Best wishes to you and your dog. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.